A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. Walked out of the dim cave into bright light. My eyes were dazzled by the light shining on water.
I have called it the Lidenbrock Sea.
My uncle said proudly. It was indeed a sea. Waves broke on the shore. Cliffs stretched into the distance. The light was not warm like the sun's, nor cold like the moon's. It was strong and even. I was sure it was from natural electricity of some kind. We still seemed to be in a cave. Yet what cave was big enough to hold such a great sea? It was kilometers high, for the clouds above us were higher than normal clouds. There was no way to judge the length or width of the cave, for the sea stretched further than we could see. After 40 days in dark underground tunnels, it was a joy to breathe sea air and to gaze into the distance. Together, my uncle and I walked along the shore. We came to a vast forest of giant mushroom trees, 10 or 12 meters high. There were other plants too, but all of them were plants that had grown on Earth millions of years ago. On the sandy shore, we found the dried bones of prehistoric animals. It was like finding treasure. "Look," I cried, "the jawbone of a mammoth!" My uncle, however, was eager to explore the sea. The next morning found me perfectly well again. I even went for a swim before eating the breakfast Hans had made for us. Then my uncle worked out that we were 1,400 kilometers from Iceland and still moving southeast. This put us about 130 kilometers below the mountains of Scotland. "But how can we get nearer to the center of the Earth on a flat sea?" I asked him.
I don't know,
He replied.
but I'm sure that if we cross the sea, we'll find more openings leading downwards.
I asked him how we could cross the sea without a boat. Hans, he told me, was already at work building a raft. By evening the raft was finished and floating on the Lidenbrock Sea. We loaded the raft the next morning. A blanket served as a sail. With Hans at the tiller, we were ready to leave. Before leaving, however, we named our little harbour Port Gräuben. The thought of Gräuben made me long to return home, but the way home was now forward. We sailed out into the sea. The weather was fine, the clouds high and the wind strong. Hans threw out a fishing line and landed a fine big fish. My uncle said it was a fish long extinct on Earth. Hans had caught a living fossil. Hours passed, and there was no sight of land. My uncle was growing restless. He wanted to get to a lower depth, and began to wonder if we'd come the wrong way. In silence, we sailed on. My uncle dropped a pickaxe tied to a piece of cord to measure the depth of the sea. The cord was over 350 meters long, but it did not touch bottom. Then, when we pulled the pickaxe back on board, we found teeth marks on the iron. Nothing less than a monster crocodile could have made such marks. I checked our guns in case we should need them. We could feel danger everywhere, but saw nothing. Weary of watching, I fell asleep. A violent shock awoke me. The raft was lifted up and thrown 30 meters or more. Hans pointed to a dark mass rising and falling in the water a short distance away. It looked like a giant porpoise. My uncle pointed to a huge sea lizard and a crocodile with rows of teeth.
And there's a monster whale!
He yelled.
See it lashing the water with its tail.
We all stared at the sight in amazement and horror. The smallest of these animals could snap our raft in half. More terrifying animals appeared, a huge turtle and a serpent 10 meters long, darting its head above the waves. All the monsters were moving towards us, and I held my rifle at the ready. The serpent and the crocodiles circled nearer. The rest seemed to disappear. I was about to shoot when Hans stopped me. The monsters were not going to attack us. Instead, they flew at one another, lashing the water and rising out of the foaming waves. We then saw that there were only two animals. One had the snout of a porpoise, the head of a lizard, and the teeth of a crocodile. We were seeing a prehistoric ichthyosaurus fighting a plesiosaurus. The ichthyosaurus must have been 30 meters long. Its great jaws were terrifying. The body of the plesiosaurus was protected by a thick shell, and its long neck rose 10 meters above the waves. The great beast fought with fury, using teeth and tails. Huge waves nearly overturned us. For over 2 hours they fought. Then both animals sank below the surface. The head of the wounded plesiosaurus rose up, whipping and waving, coiling and uncoiling. Slowly it lost its strength and lay still. The battle was over. We breathed again, but feared the ichthyosaurus still below the sea. For the moment, we were safe. About midday on the 6th day on the raft, we heard a roaring noise. At first I thought it was waves breaking on rocks or a waterfall. Hans climbed the mast and saw a great jet of water rising from the sea. We thought it was another giant sea monster. By 8 o'clock that evening, we could make out something about a kilometer long lying in the sea. The jet of water rained down upon it. I was terrified.
It's an island.
Hans suddenly called out. But what about the jet of water? I asked.
A geyser.
My uncle answered.
It's like those in Iceland.
Now the jet of water looked beautiful. The light sparkled on the water and made a rainbow. We landed on the island and the ground trembled under our feet. It was burning hot. The water from the geyser was boiling and filled the air with clouds of steam. Such heat must have come from fires burning deep underground. I was sure that if we went deeper, we must reach the burning depths. But my uncle became angry when I told him of my fears. I kept quiet, for now I could be sure of nothing. Before leaving the island, I noted that we were 1,080 kilometers from Port Gräuben, where we had set sail on this sea. We must have been somewhere under England. The following day, the wind was strong, and we sailed even faster. The clouds thickened, and the sky grew darker. The air was full of electricity, as if gathering for a storm. The coming storm added to my uncle's anger. He did not want it to hold us up. Then the wind dropped, and nothing moved. I asked if I should take down the sail and mast before the storm started, but my uncle said no to this.
Let the wind carry us away,
he said.
Perhaps we shall then reach the other side of this endless sea.
As if in answer, the wind rose and became a hurricane. The raft tossed and bounded ahead. We clung to it as the wind raged. Hans, however, sat calmly at the tiller. The electricity in the air played on his hair. He seemed to have a strange light round his head. The wind blew us along at a great speed. The rain beat down, thunder rolled and lightning flashed all round us. Massive hailstones fell. They made a bright electric flash as they hit our tools or any metal. Even the crests of the waves were edged with flames. It seemed as if the whole world was blowing up in a great explosion. For 3 days we were blown before the gale. I clung to the mast and feared we would drown. Then a ball of fire landed on the raft. Mast and sail were flung into the air. The fireball was half white and half blue and about 25 centimeters across. It jumped from rope to deck, and from our sacks to boxes, spinning fast as it moved. For a second, it touched a bag of gunpowder. By a miracle, we were not blown up. The fireball rolled near my foot, and I tried to move away. But my foot was held fast to the deck. I saw that all the iron of the raft was magnetized by the fireball. The iron nails in my boots were clinging to an iron plate in the deck. With a pull, I freed myself. The fireball burst in a blaze. Flames covered us. Then all went dark. We threw ourselves to the deck to rest and regain our strength. The wind still raged, but we were too tired to care. I only knew that we were being carried along at a great speed and must have passed under France.